Welcome! My name is Kelly.
And I'm Emma.
And this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. And our absolute favorite, at least mine, is the How to Train Your Dragon series. So
yes.
I am so excited to finally be completing the trilogy on the podcast here with How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, the 2019 Dreamworks animation film directed by the great Dean DuBois. So here is your spoiler warning, official spoiler warning here, and because we're just gonna get into it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Definitely check out our other episodes on How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2. Guys, if you don't already know, How to Train Your Dragon is my favorite animated film. I personally I mean, it's a great film in and of itself. But also I have the small claim to fame that it came out on my birthday. So I relish in that fact. And so every March we talk about dragons because, it's How to Train Your Dragon's birthday. It's my birthday, and we're just going to talk about dragons.
Yes. It's like it was especially gifted to you, Kelly.
It was.
It was placed in your lap.
It was the best Sweet 16 birthday present ever.
Aww.
So obviously I have a huge connection with this franchise. I watched all the episodes of the shows, and I rewatched these films several times. Hiccup and Toothless are just a part of my life, as they are for so many fans out there. And Emma, what's been your experience with the franchise, just over the course of over a decade?
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, the first movie, and my family and I went to see it. I'm pretty sure we went to the local drive-in theater and saw it as a special. And it was just such a fun experience. And then when we bought the movie, I can assure you that my brother and I watched that movie 50 times that summer because we thought it was so funny with all of the humor and everything. So we were able to quote that movie front to back. And so ever since that, of course, had to follow the trilogy. And so I remember seeing the third one in theaters, and I got early tickets to see it. Ultimate nerding out. And I think, weren't you there with me?
I was going to ask that because I remember going with a big group of college friends, and I'm wondering if you were in that group.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, because I, of course, drag all my friends to go see these movies. And I don't know if you were there for the How to Train Your Dragon 2, but we had done a big group to go see How to Train Your Dragon 2. They did a double feature that was How to Train Your Dragon, and then they showed How to Train Your Dragon 2 right after that, premiere. And there's a big group of college friends that went to that, and then we decided to go to see The Hidden World together too.
Yeah, I didn't see the second one with y'all, but I did go to the third one. I remember that.
Yeah. Because that was only a couple years ago, and we'll get into the story of everything, but that was right when I was moving, so February 2019. So it was really nice to see everybody kind of before I left and watch The Hidden World with everyone,
which parallels so well with this movie.
It does. It makes me cry.
Seriously, makes me cry.
Yes. So just to get into that a little bit, again, with just as so many people, have grown up with this series, I definitely have, I just relate to Hiccup so much. In every single film, I relate to him, and it just seems like it came out just the right time in my life that I was dealing with the same struggles that Hiccup struggles with in the films. The first one, you're just trying to find your place in the world and be comfortable with who you are. And in the second one, Hiccup is dealing with the looming responsibilities. And I was definitely in college, everyone's like, what are you going to do after you graduate? Like that kind of thing. Just like, oh, I have to be an adult soon. And then the third one, just like we said, like I was leaving, I was moving away from all my friends. And it was like a goodbye to the franchise and a goodbye to my life as I knew it at the time. And like, it was like so much closing the chapter of so many pieces of my life. And so it, in those ways, like I just connect with these films and connect with Hiccup so much. Like it just it just is so, it's so much, and I love them so much.
Yeah, they're absolutely wonderful stories that just take you in, and you're just able to bond with the characters so much. And it's just so endearing and fun. And yeah, it's been such a great franchise.
So, for those of you who don't know, again, spoiler warning, I'll just kind of briefly go over the plot of The Hidden World. The second one ended with Hiccup as the new chief of Burke and Toothless as the new alpha of the dragons. So we have our two leaders here, and The Hidden World dives right in with, Hiccup is not only leading his village, but also, protecting dragons and saving dragons from, those that would wish to hunt them down and capture them and basically, control them and in turn control the world. Again, just like with Drago Bloodfist in the second film, we have all of these dragon hunters who are trying to do the same thing, gather up all of these dragons for their armies, basically. And Hiccup is not happy with that, of course. The conquerors get the help of Grimmel, the Grizzly, and his ultimate aim is to kill all the Night Furies, which kind of explains why Toothless is the only one left, because Grimmel's gone around hunting them all. And so Grimmel, throughout the movie, is trying to capture Toothless, and in turn, capturing the alpha is able to capture all of the dragons that have resided on Burke. And it's really a beautiful, it's a new adventure, of Hiccup having to overcome this obstacle, but also it's that, internal conflict of can I really create a safe place for dragons and humans to live together? That's been his ultimate goal, throughout the series. And he's really, coming with the reality that maybe our world isn't ready for that. We as humans are, there's always going to be someone trying to conquer them. So it's so great. And you've got all this character development with Toothless and Hiccup, and just it really completes their journey really, really, really well. And I want to ask you, Emma, of the three films, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, that's a good question, because the first one is so classic that I just love it so dearly. It has such a special place in my heart. But also, the third one hit me so much in my heart that it's kind of like competing. I did like the second one. It's not my favorite of the three. But yeah, oh gosh, that's so hard. I think because I like to see where characters go and how they grow, I would have to say the third one is probably my favorite. Also, we get a wedding, which I kind of adore. The romantic.
Also a wedding. I mean, that's what Emma wants to see.
Yep.
I love that. I wondered where the third one sat for you in the trilogy, because for me, I feel the same way, because it all starts with the first one. The first one is so good and classic, and it's so original. But there's something really special about The Hidden World, and it's almost like, well, the third one can't be my favorite because it wouldn't be possible without the first one. But it's hard to beat. The third has such a strong, sense of external and internal conflict. And I've talked about that on the when I talked about How to Train Your Dragon 2 and how they didn't really line up and match up really well. But this one, it's like it hits all the nostalgic elements while still giving you something new and fresh. And that's so rare, especially now when you get so much just nostalgic money grabs from like Disney. And it's just nostalgia and nothing concrete and new. But The Hidden World, oh man, I can't not have the first one as my favorite, but The Hidden World is very close. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so close. And I will say though, that as far as the two films go, I do think that the first one had more tension as far as conflict.
Yes.
That's the one thing that I'm like, oh, maybe I do like the first one a little bit better. I like the third one because of the development of these characters. We've seen them grow up. Like, they're changing and letting go, and it's very relatable. But I also like the first one because the tension feels so real and natural. Whereas, like, I liked the antagonist in the third one, but his motivation wasn't as strong as like Hiccup against his father and his father's views.
Absolutely. That is a great segue into Grimmel. Let's dig deep into him. Like, as a villain, he is definitely my favorite compared to Drago Bloodfist.
Yes.
Which, like, for me, Grimmel, he doesn't have a strong motivation, I don't think. Like, he doesn't have much of a backstory other than, well, when I came upon a Night Fury, I killed it. And then he just decides to kill them all, like, because he got glory, basically, from his village. But he has way more personality.
That's so true.
Like, he's an interesting villain to watch and to watch interact with everyone else.
Yeah, he definitely has character and sass for sure. I just was like, when he told his backstory, I was like, wait, that's it? Like, you know, like the first time you watch the movie, you don't really think about that because you're so excited. And I think this was watch number 3 or 4 for me. And when he was like, you know, talking about when he was a boy and he killed the Night Fury, and then ever since it was just his determination to, you know, kill them all, I was like, huh? Like, that's it? So, not to bash on this film, but that is one thing that I would critique is like, yeah, your motivation is meh.
Yes, I would agree. A little lacking of motivation. If anything, maybe the stronger part of it is that, oh, well, this is now his, you know, reputation as a dragon hunter on the line because he's, you know, killed them all, he thought, and one got away, and he's going to try to remedy that. But yeah, I just think he is so much more interesting, even when he's talking to the other, like, you know, conquerors, and he's just like, and he's playing the game, he's playing mind games, he's just trying to, you know, really get in the mix of things, whereas Drago was just so like, I have a big ship and armada, and I have a bigger dragon, I'm going to control your dragon. I was just like, okay, not very inventive. But I did find out that they were actually going to include Drago in this third film. And that makes so much sense to me because in the second one, Drago like goes down into the sea and you don't see him. And I always thought that was weird. Like, it's like a clear, like, oh, he's not really dead because you didn't see his body. You didn't see what happened to him. So I always thought he was going to come back, but he didn't. And it just makes sense that that was their plan. And they were actually going to give him like full redemption story, which would have been really fascinating.
Yeah.
But Spielberg had, Steven Spielberg had watched the film where it was at and convinced them, or read the script probably or something, and convinced them to scrap it, probably for time. But like, that would have been really interesting, I think, and maybe would have made me like Drago more. But
yeah,
regardless.
for sure. Interesting. I had no idea.
Our other new character, because there aren't a lot of new characters in this film because they're trying to wrap up, tie up all the loose ends, and it's hard to introduce a lot of new people. But this new character isn't even a person. It's the Light Fury.
Yes. What Hiccup starts to call the Bright Fury, and then Astrid's like, Light Fury, and he's like, yeah, your idea is better.
Oh, man. I love that moment. It's so funny. Light Fury is the pull of nature, for Toothless and, like, the call of the wild, I guess. And she is not trusting of humans at all. Like, zero amount, like, throws Hiccup off of Toothless in a very fun scene. And, of course, Toothless wants to be with her because, wants to be with his kind and be with the dragons. And it's cute.
Yeah, our little Toothless is in love.
The like mating ritual scene where like Toothless is trying to get her attention. It's just like, I'm sorry. and it is not working. Hiccup tries to give advice. I'm like, Hiccup, you're the last person who's qualified to give anyone dating advice.
Right? So true.
Oh, man.
I love that he's coaching him, though. It's so cute. Like, he's just such a parent in this film. Like, Toothless is like his little boy now instead of just his best friend.
Yes.
And he's like, let me guide you through.
Like, when, he lets Toothless go free, kind of, and later on he's talking with Gobber and he's like, I don't trust her. She never comes around and blah blah blah. And it just sounds like, yeah, he's just an anxious parent.
Yep.
Oh, yep. It's so good. So obviously we love Light Fury, and everyone else does too. With all of that being said, let's talk about some of the relationships that we already know and love and how much we can see them grow and develop and just be amazing in this film. So, do you want to start? Let's just start with Hiccup and Stoic, because it'll probably take the least amount of time between these other ones. Because, yes, I know, spoiler alert, Stoic is already dead. But we get two very great flashback scenes with Stoic. And cute baby adorable Hiccup, baby and Hiccup. I love it!
Literally so cute!
So my cute. Son! Okay. And, like, Stoic is talking about, like, the hidden world. And you can really tell in those scenes that, like, Stoic just, he even says, like, we'll be at peace, there won't be need for dragons and humans to fight. So it's kind of one of those things of, like, he didn't like the war either. Even then, it was just that, like, this was the way things are and he had to defend his people. And to him, that would be a great way to, like, fix, the violence if, they had gone to the hidden world, the dragons were gone. And he also, like, I also really love the scene where a baby Hiccup is, like, crawling down the stairs, and Stoic is, like, crying. And anyway, and I really love what he says, like, about love. And, like, he's just like, there's going to be loss if you love, others. And that's just part of the deal, but it's worth it. And, like, that kind of comes at such a pivotal moment for Hiccup, like when he, they've escaped from the hidden world and he's with Toothless again. He's reunited, but he's also like, oh man, maybe this isn't right. He's really unsure about that.
Yeah.
So I just love that, throughout all three of the films, you get to see how much of an impact Stoic has had on Hiccup's life. And, like, just, I don't know, even with just little things, like, thinking about the second film more, like, Stoic wanted Hiccup to be such, a good chief and leader. And, like, and look at him now, like Hiccup really is like he has, grown into that position so much, and I think Stoic would be proud.
Oh, of course he would be. Yeah, totally. I really love these flashback scenes that we have that develop a relationship even though he's not, there. And I really loved how, yeah, that message he gives to Hiccup about how with love comes loss, but there's also no greater gift than love. So powerful. And also, I like that we get to see a lot of Stoic's compassionate and kind and sensitive side, which we don't see at first in the first movie. In fact, in the first movie, he's very bitter and he's got a lot of hatred in his heart. So it's kind of interesting to see this glimpse of this person who is, so broken and so kind-hearted at the same time. And like, it makes me think about, like, what was the turning point in his life? Like, obviously, like, having his wife killed, or he thought she was killed, that was, like, a big event. But, like, even in these flashback scenes when he's crying, you don't see that hatred yet. So it just makes me think about that.
I wonder if it's just like there, as time went on, he became more bitter, like, and more sad about Valka. I wonder, too, if, like, Hiccup not living up to his expectations, like, over time made him even more, upset with, his expectations of reality are not being met with Hiccup. And yeah, who knows? Like, maybe there was some other sort of event where it was just like, he kind of lost that, tenderness, I guess,
Right.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Hiccup and Astrid.
Okay. If you
One of
insist.
the best animated couples. They're adorkable. And I love them in every movie because, like, they're just so comfortable with each other. And, I've just always loved, especially the second one, they kind of start that, like, where they're just interacting with each other in such a natural, normal way for a couple to be. And this, like, movie definitely continues that, and they're just so freaking cute.
They are so cute because they're not like over the top about it. They're just who they are, and they support each other for who they are. And especially in this last film, because Astrid is really a big part of pushing Hiccup to really be confident in himself, because that's like a lot of Hiccup's journey in this film is how he, like, they depend so much on their dragons to the point where, like, he's insecure about his own abilities. And Astrid is the one who, like, convinces him that, hey, you've had these characteristics in you your whole life. And you've always been this kind of person who's determined and strong. You just couldn't see it all the time because you had this dragon who made things easier. And I love that when she does acknowledge that, and they have, like, a conversation about that, it isn't, like, dramatic. Like, it's not like, Hiccup, you're so much more than you realize. Like, she's just like, Hiccup, you've always been this way. Nothing's changed, except for the fact that you have a dragon, and that makes it easier. Like, she's just so straightforward, and, like,
Yes.
It's so, like, normal that it's like, wow, yes, girl. But I just love her role in, like, pushing Hiccup to be his best self.
Absolutely. And I will just piggyback off of, like, how wonderful that scene is, like, at the end where she's, like, giving him a little bit of a pep talk, because, well, it, like, reflects the first film where she does the same thing. And even in that scene in the first film, like, she is very matter of fact, like, well, what are you going to do about it? And, it's just like, it's not some big dramatic thing. It's just like, well, come on, let's go. And in this film, it mirrors that. And she's like, I was the first to believe in you, and, that kind of wraps it all together too, of like, yeah, she was like the first follower, the first one to, also see Toothless as more than just a killing machine. And
Right.
like, I really, really love, that Astrid is just so supportive of Hiccup, even when like it's very clear, and even in this, like, you know, Astrid does not agree with Hiccup all the time, but it's very clear that she would do things a different way. She would, you know, be doing things differently, but she still supports Hiccup and like lets him do things his way. And she definitely speaks up. She gives her opinion and voices, you know, where she's at, where she's coming from. But she is also very much like, it doesn't have to be exactly the way I think, because, you know, Hiccup just thinks differently. And I love that. And like going into that scene too, you know, like Hiccup's frustrated. He's like, Toothless and all the dragons are gone, captured by Grimmel. They're off, like they don't know what to do. Like, and he's just like, it's all my fault and blah, blah. He's really down on himself, just like Hiccup usually is. And it's just like, Hiccup, get it together. Okay, you're doing great. You know, it's just like one of those moments where you're like, you're doing great, sweetie. But like Valka like says to Astrid, like, you know, you need to go to, you know, go talk to him, like he'll listen to you. Like he thinks he has to lead alone because his father had to. He doesn't realize the strength you have together.
Right. So cute.
Because they have strength. They have strength together. Astrid and Hiccup do. And like, they're so great together. And like, because Hiccup like has his head in the clouds and Astrid keeps his feet on the ground.
Yeah, she's very grounded.
Yeah, she's very grounded. Also, I just wanted we'll take this moment right here to talk about the wedding real quick.
Yes. I love that this couple is like, okay, which weirdly for teenagers, they're so mature, but like, I mean, they're not teenagers in this film, but you know, like they've been teenagers and like, but
yeah, they're young adults.
And I'm just very, very impressed with their emotional maturity. But I just love that this is a couple that takes it at their own pace. You know, at the beginning of the film, we've got Gabber just like talking about like, it's about time that you got married, and they're like, oh, the M word, like all this thing about marriage. But I love that, you know, we've got the end scene, which we know it's all coming, but it's still in their time, and you know we can see that time has passed. Like the end scene with the dragons was like a summer or spring, like a warmer time. And then suddenly it's winter time. So obviously time has passed and we get to see them get married. And it's so beautiful because it's not rushed. It's just, it happens at the pace that they need to go. Mm-hmm. And it's wise. That's what it is. It's wise. So I just really love it. Also, just that scene in general is gorgeous. Astrid is a beautiful bride, and it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I love it too. I love, like you said, that they take their time and go at their own pace. Like it is clearly later, much later than right when, you know, they say goodbye to the dragons, that they get married, you know. It's not just like, oh, we and too that like that isn't just the end. Like there is a whole other scene after that you know, so it's not like the end goal is you're married now, the end,
right?
You know, which happens a lot in films. It's like, oh no,
there's more.
Like, that's not the end goal. Like there's still so much more.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to life. And yeah, they're so cute. They both have their little kids. Wreaths on their head. I think it's so cute.
So cute.
Okay. That's all. I just need to freak out. I love them. Okay.
Also, their kids. Their kids are so cute.
Okay. Nuffink and Zephyr, great names, by the way, are adorable.
So cute.
And they're just, like... I just imagine how Hiccup would like parent and just like be the like, I mean, yeah, he's chief and everything, but he'd also be the super embarrassing dad. It's like, Dad, go away.
Yes, definitely.
Oh man. And I love that introduction, like that the kids get to the dragons, and that it's, they
Yeah.
all get to fly
It's just
together. It's so
precious.
cute.
So cute. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Oh my goodness, yes. It's such a great way to end the film, and we'll definitely talk about it more later, because like it just wraps everything up so perfectly. So the other major relationship, or the major relationship that we need to talk about in this film, is Hiccup and Toothless.
Yeah. They're so great.
It's that's the film. It's about Hiccup and Toothless. And like seeing them together in this film, it's like, I mean, they've just been together so long. They are a part of each other. Like honestly, they're kind of soulmates, let's be real.
Yeah, they really are, honestly.
Yes, they are. They are a part of each other. Like they've grown up together. They've changed together. They've become who they are now, like as leaders, like together. And they've gone through so much. And and just like you had said with Astrid's whole speech to him, that like, yeah, Hiccup, you've always been yourself. Toothless just makes it easier. And like, here it is, like Hiccup has to think about, how to be himself without Toothless there, and like being on his own. And I really, really, really love the scene where Hiccup gives Toothless the tail fin that he can use on his own. And Toothless flies off, and Hiccup is just like, oh, like that little moment of like, oh no.
Right, he's not dependent on me anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I think it's interesting how, like, throughout the films, their relationship shifts. Like, in the first one, we've really got, like, the best friend going on. Like, they're best friends. They meet each other. They feel alone in this world, and they bond together. And then in the second one, it's like a partnership, and they're kind of becoming coworkers in a sense, because they're both leaders, right? Of different quote unquote tribes. And then by the end, they're the best of friends, but it's also kind of like a parent relationship too. Like he's letting his son go, and be on his own. So it's just, those two, they're so precious.
They're so precious, and it's so perfect. And like, what always gets me about this film is that like when Toothless is able to go off with Light Fury and become who he's meant to be, because he has to like become the alpha of the dragons, like it's kind of unclear, but it seems like Toothless wouldn't have come back if Hiccup hadn't gone to find him.
Yeah. No, it really did look like that, because when he went to the hidden world, him and like Toothless and Light Fury were just having a fun time, like swarming around. So I don't think Toothless would have thought to come back, which is kind of sad.
It is sad. It's so sad.
Like he's following his instincts, and so you're happy for him, but also just like, but what about Hiccup, the guy you've been through everything with?
Exactly. And like Hiccup is feeling that too. Like Hiccup has to let go and let Toothless be who he's supposed to be in the world of the dragons. And like he feels bad about like keeping Toothless with him. But it's such a mutual relationship, because like Hiccup wants the support of Toothless, and Toothless like has just grown so much being with Hiccup, and they have to say goodbye. Like, and here's the thing, right? Like, Hiccup, just realizes that like everyone's after the dragons. Like, there's no good way to like keep everyone safe, and especially the dragons. Like, the dragons are in more danger than the village of Burke, it feels. I just can't imagine like having to make that call, but in the end I guess it just feels right, because like they've gone through so much. They've had to save the dragons again, and it's just right to let Toothless be who he's supposed to be. And just the scene on the cliff
I
where
know.
they all say goodbye and Hiccup does it's the reverse hand thing and his hand like slowly lets go and
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, I'm crying. Ugh.
Yeah, I literally cry every time I see that scene. Like, no joke. It's so moving. And I think a big part of why it's so moving is that we all know that it's the right choice. Like, we know that this is what the next step is. But even though it's the right choice, doesn't mean it's not scary because it's unknown. And it doesn't mean it's not, you know, going to be a time of change and transition, which is hard. But like they're still willing to do it because they know that, if Hiccup were to just hold on to Toothless, like, yeah, he'd have a happy life, but he wouldn't be fully fulfilled. And he doesn't want to hold his best friend back from, living that life. And it's so moving just seeing them let go of their friends because, like, we know in our hearts that it's the right choice, but it's still hard. It's bittersweet.
Absolutely. It's so bittersweet. And truly, if they didn't have that end scene, like of them reuniting, momentarily, like I don't know if I'd be able to handle it.
Oh, same. Like I would really be devastated. I'm glad they gave us that little glimpse.
It's the perfect ending because like it just feels so conclusive and like hopeful, like honestly like this movie has a lot of hope because Hiccup at least has a lot of hope that like someday the dragons will be able to return. And like, I love that. And I love too that in that scene where Toothless like, isn't quite sure who Hiccup is at first. And then once he realizes, it's just like, licks him and is just jumping on him. It's so great. Like, Toothless is still Toothless, and Hiccup is still Hiccup, even though so many years have passed.
Right. Yeah, it's like, they are still best friends, but their priorities have shifted. Both of them desire like a partnership and family. Like that's something that they now are prioritizing because that's something a new desire that they want. And not saying that their friendship would have gotten in the way of that, but like, with how close they were, like it would have been harder. And so it's lovely that like now that they're fulfilling their other dreams, they can reunite and come back together and be like, oh my gosh, old friend, join me, let us reunite. And
Yes.
that not only are they able to reunite, but they are able to share their families with each other and share those new pieces of their life together. Oh, it's so
Oh,
beautiful.
absolutely. And it's just such a triumphant ending of like they get to fly again. And like, I mean, those are ultimately like some of the best scenes is when the dragons are flying around. And so, and it just feels so right. Like it's just so, so good. And but it still makes me cry. It still makes me wish that they could be together forever because that's what you want. But it's like, that's not how reality works. And so, like I've always said, like I've loved the consequences in How to Train Your Dragon films, and this consequence, although no one loses a limb or dies, is such a hard hitter and lands so well that they're separated and they're called to their roles as leaders and they have to, be there for the people slash dragons that they protect.
Yeah. I mean, and how relatable is that to its audience too? I mean, like how often have we like had strong relationships with friends and for the sake of, fulfilling our purpose, so to speak, whether that be like chasing after a life dream or going to school, like a new school, whatever it is, we're letting go of things. Like our friendships change and evolve and like how we see life around us changes. And it's normal, it's natural, but it's still hard because there's that letting go piece. And it's not like you're like, upset with that past, like that you're grateful for that past, but it's still like you have to say goodbye in some aspects of your life, well, like all the time. And I think that's why it hits hard so much in the third film, because that's like the most relatable like theme going on.
Yeah, just the theme of having to say goodbye and to move into a new chapter. Like this is such a big chapter of their lives that's closing, and it's like defined them. Like their relationship with each other has defined who they are as individuals, and having to close the door on that is so deep. And we've all been in those places of whether it is like saying goodbye to a person or saying goodbye to an opportunity or a place. And it's just so relatable, and they do it in such a way that like you just feel it deep down in your bones, especially if you're a big Dragons fan. Oh man. And also kind of going into some themes like just the coming of age story in general that these three films tell is so well done. It's just such a tightly woven trilogy. And like what I think about the most is just how Hiccup is accepting who he is or defining himself in every film. Like in the first one, he is comparing himself to his culture, to his heritage of like, this is the history of Berk, and the people of Berk is to like fight dragons. And he doesn't match up with the, preconceived notions of his society, like what his society is telling him he should be. And he's like, no, that's not me. And in the second one, he is like identifying himself with his family, right? With Stoic and Valka, like, who am I, in comparison to them, and like, how do they define me? And then in this third one, I think is the most about his, identity with his best friend, with Toothless, and like learning to separate himself from that identity as well to truly be his own. Like the first film is all about, be yourself, and, you can change things. And ultimately they're all about that. Like they're all about Hiccup learning to be himself and, and identifying himself, without all of those other factors, like without, without the village of Berk telling him he has to kill dragons, without Valka saying that, you can't have dragons and humans together, without this third one, like his identity as separate from Toothless, and like he fully, is in his leadership role, and he is like thriving in that. And it's heartbreaking that he has to leave that chapter behind, but he like needs to move forward.
Yeah.
And he's not welcome in the hidden world. Like when he and Astrid go there, that dragons have a fit because they're not supposed to be there.
They're not supposed to be there. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure like for him, like though we don't see a big reaction, it's probably like the seed of that change. Like, oh wow, like in the long run, like if I want Toothless to come into his own, like there has to be that separation.
Absolutely. I truly think that is a huge turning point for Hiccup, because that's when he sees Toothless in his full glory, like in his like a full, this is his place, is here in the hidden world. And he realizes this isn't where he is supposed to be.
Right. And Astrid further confirms that when she's just like, now that's a king. It's like those words are like, oh, yep, like boom, there's his identity.
Oh, yes. And you see Hiccup, and he like wants to be like proud and in awe like Astrid is, but he's mostly just sad. And then there's that guilt too, of like, everyone's had that experience where it's just like, I want to be so proud of my friend or, someone I really care about for doing this thing. But also this sadness of like, well, either that's going to, the consequences of that, whatever it may be, on you. Like, because there's always conflicting, desires. And like, we've all been in those kinds of situations, and it's just like, it is sad and it's okay to be sad, but Hiccup also realizes like that's where Toothless is supposed to be, and I'm just like getting all emotional about my real life.
Yep. I feel that.
Oh man, all the feels all the time in this series. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, this definitely was a tearjerker film, and we've already declared why. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's bittersweet. We all know that it's a change in life, but it's still hard nonetheless to say goodbye and let go. And yeah, to be proud of your friend or your partner or whoever it is that is making changes. Like, part of you is a little selfish. And it's just like, oh, but I want them to do this for them forever. But life is change. Life is growth. All the feels.
The feels. So, let's kind of go back and look at some of the other parallels in this film, because of course there are many, throwback moments to previous films. And like I said before, this film is so good at tugging at your nostalgic heartstrings while also still maintaining something new and unique. But like their way of weaving in all of these moments, like really just cements it as like an even more emotional film. So like, what are some of your favorite parallel moments?
So one of my favorite parallel moments is honestly just the beginning prologue or monologue, however you want to put it. But, his speech about this is Burke, and he goes into the descriptor of how we have dragons. And it all takes you back because that opening speech or opening monologue of the first film was like the most freaking hilarious thing that I ever thought existed.
Absolutely.
It's
stellar.
funny. And then like at the end of film 1, like you have that same monologue, but it's adjusted and it's changing. And then we finally we get that again. And so that's like one parallel that I absolutely love because it just like ties you back to the foundation of where we all started. And like at the end of the day, Hiccup is still so nerdy and cute. And so I just love that parallel.
Absolutely. And that makes me think like the ending actually in the third one doesn't have that tag. Like all the other ones have the beginning and end bookmarks of this is Burke. And this one doesn't end that way. It has the actually what starts the book series is when I was a boy, there were dragons. And he gives that little spiel at the end of this film, which honestly tears my heart to shreds. It's fine.
Oh, it was so well done.
Oh, boy. But it also is a little sad that they don't have the this is Burke at the end. But I mean, it's not about that at this point. It's about...
Yeah, it's not about that anymore.
It's about Hiccup and Toothless.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously. Like, I think it was appropriate how they ended it because even the identity of Burke has changed so much.
Yes.
Like, Burke has always been seen as a place. And now, like, the people have realized, no, Burke is a people. Like, it's about the group and the characters, not just a place. So I think it was appropriate to give that little, like, nod to the book at the end.
I agree. I think it's so, so well done. And like just mentioning the book for a second, like obviously the films are very, very different, but like they still tie together so well in, the relationship of Toothless and Hiccup and this idea that like all the dragons are gone. Where did they go? And here's this, like from the beginning of the book, like it is stated that Hiccup is telling this story as an old man and is like it's like nostalgia is written into the very fabric of the storytelling. And so of course there's like this deep nostalgia connected in the film too.
Can you imagine if those opening monologues and closing monologues were like in the voice of like an older man instead of Hiccup? Wouldn't that be so different?
Oh my gosh.
Because like I love Hiccup's nerdy voice, but like, if he's saying it like, when he was a boy, like dragons used to be around and roam the land, like how much would that change the atmosphere of this film,
Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Honestly, amazing. That would be so whoa. Even if they had just done that for the very end there, I don't know. Like I always imagined, like before this film came out, I was like, what if they had really old Hiccup like saying those lines, And that would give me chills.
So if they would have done just an old man voice at the very end of the film, I think I would have been thrown off because I'd be like, who's this voice? Like,
right,
I've never heard this one before.
Yeah.
So like, but if they would have had it throughout the films, like, I just wonder how much it would have changed my perspective. Like,
yeah,
or the dynamic of it rather. But I just thought that was interesting to think about.
I think that's fascinating because it truly would give you a completely different tone of the films. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, definitely. It's like when we talked about Tangled and how they had like the different openings, ideas for the start of the film. How it completely changes the setup.
It changes the framework completely. And those first few moments of a film are so important, or really any media, because you're establishing the most important things. You're like a new reader, a new viewer is going in completely blind, completely open to whatever you're about to give them. And so whatever you give them at the very beginning is the foundation for understanding everything else that happens in the story. And so, oh man, that would be so different and so fascinating if they had done something like that. One of my favorite parallel moments is when Hiccup does make the tail for Toothless, the new tail.
Yes.
Which in The Gift of the Night Fury, which is one of the shorts, Hiccup does make a similar tail so that Toothless can fly on his own. But it's really sweet because in the short, like, Toothless flies off, and then of course Hiccup is like, oh no, he's never coming back. But then Toothless actually just had flown off, found his helmet for him, brings it back, like, later, and then he ends up actually smashing the tail to bits because he doesn't want to fly without Hiccup.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I think that explains, like, because I'm pretty sure there's a line where, like, when he's making it, when Hiccup in the third movie has made the new one, like, one of the characters is just like, oh, is Toothless actually gonna, like, accept it this time? I thought he didn't like that. Or, they like, I feel like something to that extent was said, so that makes sense.
Yes, Astrid does have a little line in there that's like, oh, he didn't like that last time. And that's why. So everyone has to go watch Gift of the Night Fury. It's so
I love
cute.
that he smashed it because he wanted to ride with Hiccup. That's so cute.
It's so adorable. Oh my goodness. But then, like in this film, Hiccup puts it on, and it's that same like angle as like when he originally puts a tail on Toothless, and where his like wings come out in the first film. That's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole series, let's be real. And so having it mirrored here is just so cool. And I just love that whole scene because like Hiccup is just so, at first just like kind of ready to like let him go, and I mean he's in the mindset that he's coming back, and Toothless is so excited, and then there's that little moment like he's got his new tail, Toothless is ready to go, he kind of frolics off, and then he looks back for a second, and Hiccup's like, no, it's okay, go. And it just
that's like the little kid like looking at mom and dad and be like, is it okay if I do this? And they're like, yes, you can do it. Like, oh my gosh, so cute.
Oh, it's one of my favorite scenes, and I just love it so much, just so much.
Yes. Another one of my favorite parallels is the drawing. When Hiccup first meets Toothless draws in the sand.
Yes.
And he draws a bunch of squiggles. And then when Toothless is trying to get the Light Fury's attention, he draws her. And it's so cute. I'm like, oh my gosh, you little artist, you.
Oh, now he learns how to draw. It's just so funny.
Right. So cute.
That's such a perfect moment.
Also, yeah, that it really is a parallel moment, not just with the drawing, but it's that same setup of they're in this beach or pond-like area trying to get to know each other, right? So like the first time was Hiccup and Toothless trying to get to know each other, following around all day. And this time it's Toothless and the Light Fury, like following each other around and figuring each other out. And it's just so cute.
So cute. And like you even have like them hanging upside down similarly. And like it's just so cute. It's so cute. That whole scene is definitely a parallel.
It's crazy to think that Toothless was the stubborn one at the beginning of the first movie. Yeah. You know, he's the hesitant one and a little on edge, and now we've got stubborn little Light Fury and dorky Toothless. Like,
yes. Oh, I love that so much. Another parallel that I really love, going back to that wonderful scene with Hiccup and Astrid on the cliff, like she asks him, like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, probably something stupid. Then Astrid's like, that's the Hiccup, I know. And it's just like so good. Because that scene
I love that.
Is in the first one where she's like, you know, what are you going to do? Probably something, I don't remember. And she's like, great, we've tried that already. And then he's like, then something crazy, you know, like, and they go off and... Oh man, I love that. Such a good nod to the original.
Yes. I love that they paralleled that line. It was great. And it's just like a big like piece of their relationship, you know?
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, another parallel that I have to talk about is the end of the battle. Like Toothless falling. Okay? Cuz we can't not talk about this scene because like Toothless has been hit by one of the, you know, vials that, you know, makes him unconscious, basically.
Susceptible.
Yeah. And then Hiccup is hanging on to Light Fury, and Grimmel is hanging on to Hiccup. So to save Toothless, which, by the way, why is everyone always falling in these films? So that's the parallel there.
Well, they are flying a lot, so
that's true.
That's part of it.
Every single movie, Hiccup lets his dragon fall from the sky. Okay, but Hiccup, you know, is just like telling Light Fury go and save him, and like let's go, and is basically sacrificing himself so that Light Fury can go save Toothless. And there's that little tiny moment where you're like, Hiccup's gonna die.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love consequence, but I think that's a bit too much consequence.
Too much, too dark.
So I'm glad that Light Fury does save him. And of course, Hiccup, you know, removes his peg leg that Grimmel is holding on to. And so Grimmel does fall into the sea, and who knows what happens to him. Just like all of their villains, they just fall into the sea and no one knows. But like that moment is so good and so intense and fantastic, and like I just can't. And I love that, like, finally, after everything, Light Fury trusts him just a little bit.
Oh, I know. She opens up and she saves him, of course. It's great.
Yes.
My last little parallel that I wanted to mention was the ode to the romantic flight. So in the first one, we've got Astrid and Hiccup going on the romantic flight together on Toothless. And in this film, we've got Night Fury and Light Fury doing a little romantic flight around. And what I really love about all of these films, really, but it's especially noticeable in this flight scene, is that so much of the relationship between characters is unspoken.
Yes.
Like there's so much like quote unquote dialogue happening between the two the two Furies, and like so much interaction happening and but there's no talking. And I think there was like a scene, like for those two, it was like 10 minutes straight where there's no talking. It's just them like, you know, talking in their Fury speech, but like, you know, it's just their relationship is nonverbal. And it's so fascinating to me to see them interact with each other. That was something I just loved about these films, that you don't always need words. And but that romantic flight was really beautiful as they like chased each other around, and the Light Fury was teaching him some tricks, and it's just fun.
Yes. I'll get back to the no dialogue scenes in a second, but can we just mention Toothless's awesome lightning abilities?
It's epic.
The best. I love it. And I love too that like at the end he uses it and Hiccup is like, what? So great.
Yes. I was always fascinated by the fact that like, all these things are surrounding Toothless and he like puts his lightning powers out, but Hiccup doesn't seem to get harmed. So
well, Hiccup is wearing his armor that's made out of Toothless scales, so he's fine.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think about that. Okay, I see you.
He's good to go. But I'm really glad you mentioned that about like so much being said without dialogue. Like that's one of my favorite things to see in film, and like forbidden friendship scene in the first film is like just the pinnacle of that. And that's honestly also just like a trademark Dean Dubois thing. Like Mulan, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon. He's always, putting these scenes in without any dialogue or very little dialogue, building relationship. And that's what makes, film different than, a book, like other media, like comparatively, like that you can do that. You can, this is a visual storytelling medium, and like he utilizes it, and it always seems to mean more when you don't have to say anything.
Yeah, it's almost more powerful.
There's one other scene that isn't a parallel, but is just one of my favorite scenes, and I have to mention it. It's when Rough Nut is captured by Grimmel.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good. I mean, the character animation in that scene for Grimmel and Rough Nut is hilarious. And she's just talking his ear off, and then he gets the idea to follow her and lets her leave. But it's just like, oh my gosh. Just like hilarious. All of just the random crap that she's spewing out is so funny.
Why the long face? I mean, like, I have a long face too, but like not as long as yours. Like just like
yes.
Like the fact that she annoys them to the point where they're like, get rid of her.
Oh, it's so good. Oh man, I just comedic gold right there.
Yeah. Okay. Rough Nut literally is one of my favorite comedic components of this whole series. Like her and her brother. But she's just so ridiculous, but so bold and confident about her ridiculousness. It just, I laugh every time because she says the most insane things, and I'm like, you're amazing because you just own it.
She does. Like, this is just the way I am, and I'm great.
Yes. You're crazy. I like that.
Yes. So good. So good. I want to talk about the music for a second.
Oh, John Powell, thank you for your gifts.
Thank you, John Powell. We love you. It's no surprise that How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack is my most listened to music at all that I ever in my life. My music library, it's just How to Train Your Dragon soundtracks on repeat. But this film obviously does a fantastic job of weaving in all the old themes and, pulling new ones. And gosh, man, it just, this whole franchise, this trilogy would not be what it is without its music. And I cannot overstate that enough. Like, it just gives so much emotional weight and impact because, just like we were saying, there's so much happening without dialogue. And what is the dialogue? The music.
Yeah, it really is.
Also, like a huge chunk at the end of this film is just music, like tracks from the original. And so they're extra pulling at your heartstrings with this nostalgia because they're just using the original tracks. So it's just, right in the feels.
So it's like, oh my gosh, back to the beginning.
So I had to make sure we mentioned that, and just props to John Powell.
Yeah, his work is incredible. Like every piece in that film is just, Oh, it's just so perfect. Like it really brings out the emotion of the characters and I love the use of bagpipes, okay? I think it's glorious. Like, yes, please, every day. But yeah, he's got a gift like just with all the different elements and like you said with bringing out pieces from the previous films to, tug at those heartstrings. It's like, yep, you did it. You accomplished your goal. Thank you. I'll just cry now.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
And of course, just props to the beautiful animation of this film as well. It's an absolute testament to what animation can do. I've always enjoyed, especially the scenery and landscapes of these films, and this one is no exception. Like the scope of like the locales is breathtaking. Like New Burke, beautiful. Like the Hidden
Gorgeous.
World, jaw-dropping.
Gorgeous.
All of it. It's so good. It's so beautiful.
So good. So detailed. Like the Hidden World is like my favorite to look at. Like, just especially when everything goes to like the glow in the dark, ethereal look. It's gorgeous. And like even with like the light from the little dragons that are like really tiny and they're like little balls of light.
Yes.
Like even just seeing their reflections everywhere. And yeah, the Hidden World is just gorgeous. Like watching this again, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like all this lighting.
Oh, yeah.
And I think another favorite element of mine is like just the water. All the water that surrounds Burke and everything. Like it looks like real water, like to me.
It does. There are moments where I'm like, was this filmed? Like, it looks real. What is happening? It's so beautiful.
Or the detail in when the two Furies are getting to know each other. And they have a moment where they're staring into each other's eyes, kind of like Hiccup and Toothless did in the beginning.
Yes.
And you can see the reflection of each one in the other's eyes.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I see all of you in the eyes. Like, what?
Yes.
Gorgeous.
There's so much good detail, like in the dragons, like the scales, the details there. And like in the people, like the leather, the fur, the hair, there's like so much texture going on, and they've got it down, and it all just looks so phenomenal.
Yeah, so good. Even like, okay, this is kind of gross, but like with baby Hiccup or Hiccup's kids, like the tiny little like marks of like the moistness underneath their noses.
Yes.
Like even just like little details like that, which is like, oh, that's kind of gross, but like also like that's what a kid would have,
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like Nafink like has a little sniffle, and like you can see the little snot.
Yeah.
Aww. Man, just the details. I can't. It's so good. And just like like you said, like the lighting and the just like color palette of everything is so stunning. Like, I mean, from like when they enter the Hidden World to like, when they meet the Light Fury for the first time out in the woods, like that, the lighting of that, it's the evening, the greenery, like everything is just so well balanced, and like they say so much with their color choices too. Like when you see Grimmel again, and it's like all of his armada, and it's like dark and brown and yellow and then they get to New Burke, and it's green and luscious and beautiful and colorful and bright.
Yes.
And I just, oh man, it's so rich. Like that's what this whole film is. It's just it feels so rich.
Yes, so rich. Even like the wedding scene, like there's not a ton of color because it's snow, like, but even the snow looks so fresh and like it is just new and crisp and like just like the perfect winter day. Which, by the way, their costume design for the wedding I thought was beautiful. Like,
oh yeah,
their attire was so great. So I just had to put that in as a costumer. Like,
oh,
like,
for
I just
sure.
love that. But yeah, breathtaking. Like literally all of these landscapes are gorgeous. And like some snippets like even remind me of like cliffs in Ireland that we saw. And like, I'm just like, wow, that's so beautiful. Take me back.
I agree. It definitely makes me miss Ireland. All in all, it may be the best film in the trilogy. Everyone needs to watch it. It's an absolute delight, and it's beautiful, stunning, heartwarming, and it ends absolutely perfectly. I have absolutely no complaints about this film.
No, it besides like the bad guy's motivation, I would say it is so good. Like it is beautiful in every way. And yes, it pulls at your heartstrings, but this film is still hilarious. I mean, we got Tough Nut and his luscious beard that is not actually a beard, you know?
Yes, and fish legs and the baby.
Right, or like giving the pep talks to Hiccup on becoming marriage material.
Oh my God. Great. Oh my gosh. Least qualified to give advice.
Yes. Can you not like walk with what was it? Can you not walk
lose the limp?
Yeah, lose the limp. It's like I have a prosthetic leg.
And I have a parasitic sister. You don't see me complaining.
Oh, so good.
Brilliant.
So good.
Just brilliant. It's a true joy, and I am so just I just can't thank Dean DuBois and the entire DreamWorks team enough for creating such a perfect, beautiful franchise and also ending it in such a spectacular, beautiful way. You just don't see that a lot, especially out of Hollywood. It's always about the sequels. It's always about keeping it going. It's always about like getting more money out of something. And this was like, no, Dean had an ending and he ended it, and he ended it so perfectly.
Yeah. Thank you, DreamWorks, for not giving us a formula, but giving us a story.
Yes. Thank you, DreamWorks. Thank you, DreamWorks fan. Here I am. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to the patrons over at patreon.com/Fanimated. You guys can be part of the Fanimated crew over there. You get a vote on upcoming episode topics. You get to hear bonus content and also just see some other fun things. You know what? Actually, for this, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a video on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/Fanimated. Everyone can see this video, and it is my personal favorite thing to ever come out of the How to Train Your Dragon fandom. I'm just going to share it there. I'm not going to put it on social media, but you have to go to patreon.com/Fanimated. It's free to look at it because it's hilarious, and I guarantee you, if you like How to Train Your Dragon, you're going to love it. So that gives you some incentive to go take a peek. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music. I do the cover art. I'm on Instagram at CandorDraw, and Fanimated Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast. And thank you so much, Emma, for joining me to talk about How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
Of course. I love this film, and I'm so happy to have talked about it.
Good. Thank you so much. And hey, also, would you be interested in maybe doing a What You Watching next week?
You know it.
Okay, good, because girl, we got some things to talk about.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer, Fruits Basket, anime. Okay, so
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys next week, and in the meantime, stay tuned
And stay animated.
I just thinking of over all three films, like, Toothless has done some damage to the Haddock family.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Oh, dear.
Yes. I just love that at that end scene where Astrid holds the kids and she's like, "Don't worry, he's not gonna eat your father." It's like, oh yes, that's what you need to tell your kids. Oh no, he's not gonna get eaten.
Oh no.
Oh, that was great.